Well, would you look at that? I'm a little killer robot. Isn't this just so cute? And welcome to the very first monthly chapter review for Heavenly Delusion. Can you believe it? We caught up, and there was a month off, I think. Last month, there was no chapter. Apparently, we get about 9 chapters a year, if I'm understanding this stuff to be correct. And we finally got a new one, my first new one. Everybody remembers the first chapter where they catch up to the manga? Or the last one they read before they catch up. You probably remember that more, huh? Because I'm like, I remember Jean got fake out shot in Attack on Titan in the Uprising arc when I caught up back in like 2014 or whatever. What else have I caught up on? Vinland was around the Garm backstory stuff. Berserk was right before Casca came back. Spoilers for all these manga, I guess. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, you have no context to know that any of these things are spoilers. And for this one, it was the Killer Robot Saga. I'll remember it forever. Now, seemingly, maybe this Killer Robot Saga is over. I do other chapter reviews. The only ones, I keep up with Vinland Saga, of course. If you're a Heavenly Delusion person stumbling into this wacky world over here on Secondary ENT. This is actually my second channel. I got a main channel where I make scripted videos. I'm going to make a scripted Heavenly Delusion video soon. I do tangents too, so if you best believe I probably just forgot what I was talking about. But anyway, I want these videos to be under 10 minutes about. And because we don't need to blather on, in my Chainsaw Man chapter reviews, I've got my bestest friend in the whole wide world, Elite RE, with me. And we just bloviate we read the whole chapter out, and then we go to Reddit and make fun of Redditors and stuff. It's crazy. And it's like an hour. And let me tell you something, these Chainsaw Man chapters are a lot shorter than these Heavenly Delusion chapters. Because I will say, first of all, this is the first time I've seen any Japanese stylings on the Heavenly Delusion chapters. Because it says Tengoku Daimakoyo, however you say Heavenly Delusion in Japanese. And there's Japanese text on the page. And the type font and stuff is a little different because it's still new. And the chapter only came out a day ago, I think. So I'm interested to see when the official scan comes out and the last this chapter gets updated with the visuals. Even the way that the chapter thingy in the corner is slightly different to how it is when when I guess we get the official scans and stuff. So that's all cute. Our title page this week is obviously the greatest Heavenly Delusion character of all time, the great director. Now I'm gonna be terrible with character names, especially since I haven't read any Heavenly Delusion. I know Kiriko and Maru and the director, and that's probably about it. But the director's young, sexy boyfriend over here, who she can't stop coming on to, is dying of the Taru disease, or whatever it's called. So he is going to become a Hiroko soon. I don't know if we know which one he ends up becoming. That's crazy. Now, I often talk about in my chapter reviews how manga, suit to releases like this. I will say Chainsaw Man's release stuff is, I think, terrible because you sort of just overthink every chapter. You only get small pieces. They come out every week. You always forget what you're where were we up to and stuff like that. Versus something that I covered pretty extensively when it was coming to an end was Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan chapters are probably about as long as this chapter. They were always very long, once a month. I was also doing content right before the chapter came out. I used to call them last minute predictions. So I was remembering where exactly we were up to. There's a lot of speculation going in, and Attack on Titan is sort of a series that lends much better to speculation. Heavenly Delusion has sort of similarities to Attack on Titan in the way that it's a mystery, which I think lends itself well to that. I think we only have a few outstanding mysteries left. Other things have sort of slowly been drip-fed, and Heavenly Delusion likes to do little twists always, and it's not always big twists. It's almost a little bit more context for something, and that's it's crazy. When we learn that even when we continue to see the director after we kind of know, okay, she's going to find Maru one time and she's going to be sad that her new boyfriend is dead and her other friend is probably going to be dead and she's probably got the disease and is dying. I think we know she's dying of the disease when Maru takes her, finally gets brought to Kiriko. I wonder how she learns who Kiriko is. I wonder if she's the great Kiriko, I learned about her, or it's just incidental or something. I'm sure that'll be made to be a big moment when she finds out and is going to send Maru there and stuff like that. But you'd really There is going to be more twists before we get there, even though we can kind of piece together what happened, is kind of where we're at with, I think, most of the mysteries in Heavenly Delusion. I guess the bigger mysteries is what's going on with, like, the alien-looking kid, who I'm forgetting the name of, and Mina, the AI system and stuff like that, and are they the same thing? Are they at odds with each other? What's going on? And obviously, like, the big calamity, which we sort of understand to be a bunch of natural disasters, but was that spurred on by something. I'm sure it's going to connect back to Mina and or the little alien kid. Etc., etc. And we also don't have confirmation that, like, Maru's mother, Tokyo, who I'm remembering now, like, any of them are dead and stuff, so we might meet them later in the present timeline. I feel like that could be the big moment at the end. Because we also don't really understand how, like, what the end game for Heavenly Delusion looks like. Finding heaven, I guess, is vague enough. But anyway, this is general speculation, not really talking about the chapter. So the chapter sort of capends the Killer Robot saga, where we find out that it's actually a robot, which I think most people had sort of pieced together. Now, Heavenly Delusion does great at sort of these constant mini arcs, to the point where it almost looks like this one would be over. Which this robot seems to have been a ill-programmed killer robot that, like, has the mindset of a kid and wants kids to play with it, but it ends up killing the kids, and it was quite violent with what we saw with, like, the skulls and stuff. And obviously it was even beating up Maru here, and there's speculation here about predicting, or whether or not it can read people's minds, but then it's kind of later revealed by our other friend kid robot implant thing, which I'm sure there's a parallel going on here that I haven't entirely thought through, that it was probably just predicting moves with, like, technology and stuff. Maru even references the great crazy girl we fought a while ago, who he had an epic fight with, and how this is like another level and stuff. The imagery of, like, the decapitated kid head is rather disturbing. All of this is rather disturbing in probably and it's probably the most disturbing stuff we've seen in Heavenly Delusion, even though a lot of it's implied. I do think there is a possibility that this robot is, like, going to chase them, and maybe we're doing, like, a Terminator thing, and, like, we're in the van, and maybe the van gets destroyed, or we have to send our robot out to fight it, or something like that. But I could also easily see them driving away, right? Because we kind of got, remember with, like, the family, and they have, like, the super old, very mysterious. How can Hirokos be super old and stuff? I thought this was a new thing brought on by, like, the Academy stuff. Obviously that throws a wrench and some added context into theories and stuff. So I can see the robot chasing them. Also, the panel I have on screen, which my little head is attached to here, is kind of cute in an odd way, to where I was like, oh, are we going to flesh this character out more and see it be misunderstood, and that, like, it was a misdirect with all the sort of evil imagery we had? Is that where we're going with this, where it's sort of pouting at the end? Maybe we'll journey back through this area at some point and have to encounter it again, which I think, like, there are sort of characters we are promised to meet again, like the Hotel King girl, who we found out was, like, the kids of those one characters. That's crazy and stuff. That's, like, one we're almost guaranteed to see again. But then there's the other ones, like the rape victim girl who then exploded the guy and stuff. Like, maybe we could see her again, or maybe we'll journey back through. And maybe part of the end of Heavenly Delusion will be going back down the road in which we journeyed from, and seeing all these characters again for a chapter or something. That could be interesting. Though Heavenly Delusion is very fast and tight, so I don't know if we would have enough time to do that. Is that, like, the de-escalating action of the series? I don't know. Towards the end, we're sort of getting reiterations of Kiriko, like, loving Maru, which we've sort of understood to this point, though it's still rather ambiguous which direction we're heading, and whether or not we are actually going to ship the two of them together, and what that has to say about identity and stuff regarding Heavenly Delusion, which is probably the most interesting thematic discussion there is there, and sort of what it has to say about gender and things like that. I've kind of vaguely talked about this in a bunch of other discussions I've had recently. Like, I'm pretty sure in our final Five Punch discussion, I was bringing up Heavenly Delusion and gender and stuff like that. And, like, the body and the soul and how interconnected the two are, and sort of a more Japanese-esque depiction of maybe transness, etc., steeped more in Japanese culture and all the interesting implications there. But all these are very much wait-and-see scenarios. But besides that, we got we did some fighting. We got the reveal of the sickness, which is very sad. All these kids are dying. Heavenly Delusion does this thing where it's like, oh, context for characters we already know are probably going to die, but then they're still dying, and it's funny how it plays with your emotions in that way. Also, Kiriko was having like a big reaction. I couldn't tell if we were doing another period thing where she was getting a period again. That's why she vomited. But obviously she's like, because I was like, she's seen some fucked up stuff. Like, why is she so freaked out at the kid head? But it makes sense now. She's vomiting. It's a little traumatizing, I'd say. But I wanted these to be short, and I feel like we've kind of said things here. Some speculation. I've looked around on YouTube. I don't know if there are many people doing monthly Heavenly Control. I always go to say Heavenly Controller after the YouTuber, but it's Heavenly Delusion. Chapter review, so maybe we can. I also don't know. I could see myself like losing immediate interest in Heavenly Delusion, and when I find out that a chapter has come out, I might not rush to it. And I also kind of like the idea of letting chapters pile up. If we do that, it'll just be like, oh, I'll let 5 chapters pile up, and then we'll do a review of the 5 chapters, chapters 75 to 80. My goodness. Also, I understand that Heavenly Delusion is maybe going to be under 100 chapters. I remember after I caught up reading some stuff that seemed to indicate that, so that's cool too. So we sort of have a track of when it's going to end. Anyway, I also haven't really dug into a lot of the most popular fan theories. I've looked at the Reddit a little bit, but these are all things I've still got to do in Heavenly Delusion. Maybe you can leave some in the comments below. But yes, that's our first Heavenly Delusion chapter review. We did it. Will we be back for more? I think so, at least a little bit. We'll stick around. We'll iterate on the process. We'll figure out what we want to do, if we want to keep these short, etc., etc. Maybe one day a leader will catch up and he can join us on these, though I don't think so. With that being said, it's time for the outro, and goodbye and stuff, and support links in the description below. Thanks!